The desert wind whispered across the lonely plains, carrying dust, silence, and stories no one dared to tell. And today, you're about to hear one of them. Welcome back to Frontier Echoes, the place where forgotten legends of the Wild West return to life. Settle in, because this tale, it begins with a woman in chains, and a man who refused to walk away. The sun was sinking behind the ridgeline, turning the sky into a smear of burning orange. A lone cowboy rode across the cracked earth, the hooves of his horse kicking up a lonely trail of dust. His name was Elias Boone, a quiet rancher who preferred cattle over people, but fate never cared about preferences. It always had its own arrangements. Elias had been riding since dawn, tracking a missing calf that had wandered off the night before. But halfway down an old trail, he noticed something that made him pull the reins tight. At first he thought it was a rag caught on a fence. But as he rode closer, the shape became human. She was chained to a long, wooden fence post, wrists bound above her head, hair tangled over her face. Her clothing was torn, dusty, worn from struggle. She didn't look up until his horse snorted. When she lifted her head, Elias couldn't breathe for a moment. Her eyes, dark, fierce, trembling, not with fear, but with exhaustion. "You alive?" Elias asked, sliding off his horse. Her voice came out cracked, barely a whisper. "Do whatever you want. I can't fight anymore." The words hit him hard. Not because she feared him, but because of the hopelessness behind them. Elias had seen that kind of defeat only on battlefields, never on someone who should have been free. "I ain't here to hurt you," he said quietly. She blinked, almost confused. Then shook her head. "They all say that." He stepped closer slowly, careful like approaching a wounded animal. Her wrists were tied tight, metal cuffs digging deep into her skin. She flinched when he reached toward her. "I'm gonna free you," he said softly. "No," she breathed out, eyes distant. "Men don't free. They take." Elias removed his hat and placed it on the fence, showing his empty hands. "Ma'am, if I wanted to do something else, I wouldn't have stopped my horse over there. I ain't touched you. I ain't stepping closer unless you let me." Her breath trembled. She swallowed. "Why? Why would you help me?" He looked at her broken wrists, the bruises, the dried blood on her arm. "Because someone should have helped you long before I got here." For a long moment, she stared at him, searching for lies. When she found none, her shoulders sagged. "Then, free me." Slowly, "The cuffs are tight." Elias nodded and gently reached for the metal. He worked carefully, loosening the bolt little by little. Every tiny movement made her wince, but she stayed silent, jaw clenched, eyes watering. "What's your name?" he asked softly. "Liana," she whispered. "Daughter of Chief Maka." The name pulsed through him like a shock. Chief Maka was known all across the frontier. Strong. Fearless. Protective of his people. If this woman was truly his daughter. "How'd you end up out here?" Elias asked, still working the metal. "They took me at dawn," she said. "Bandits. Men who wanted to use me as trade. My father refused their demands. So they chained me here, waiting for him to come for me. But he cannot, he does not know where I am." Her voice started trembling again. Elias loosened the first cuff. It fell into the dirt. Liana gasped, her newly freed hand dropping to her side. She tried to lift it, but her arm gave out. He caught her before she collapsed. "Easy," he said. "Your blood ain't flowed proper." She stared at him again, confused. "You're helping me, why? You know who I am." "I know," he replied gently. "And that don't change the fact that you're suffering." He moved to the second cuff. Her breathing grew uneven. "It's okay, he murmured. Just a little more. No, she whispered. Not okay. They said if anyone found me, they'd come back. Elias paused. Who? The bandits. The men who chained me here. They said they'll return by sunset. Elias looked at the sinking sun. They didn't have much time. The second cuff snapped loose. Liana's knees buckled. He caught her again, his arms steady around her. You're free now, Elias said softly. She didn't move. Didn't speak. She just looked at him with an expression he couldn't quite read, fear, disbelief, and something like gratitude buried beneath layers of shock. Then her body shook. Not from cold, but from release. The moment freedom touched her skin, she finally allowed herself to cry. She turned her face away, ashamed of her tears. I'm sorry, she whispered. Don't be, Elias said. You held on this long. That takes strength. She shook her head. Strength left me hours ago. No, Elias said firmly. If you had no strength, you'd be dead. But you're standing. She tried to laugh, but it came out like a broken breath. Then take me away. Please. He nodded and lifted her carefully onto his horse. She flinched at first, expecting pain or cruelty. But Elias just steadied her, adjusting the blanket so it wouldn't scrape her wounds. You ride in front, he said. Safer that way. He climbed up behind her, his hands light on the reins, not touching her unless necessary. But before they could move, the distant thunder of hooves cracked across the plains. Liana stiffened. They're back. Elias cursed under his breath. A gang of 4 riders appeared on the horizon, kicking up dust. They won't stop, Liana whispered. They'll kill you for freeing me. Elias adjusted his hat, checked his revolver. Let me worry about that. The riders approached fast. Elias guided the horse behind a small rise, giving them a sliver of cover. Liana, one of the bandits shouted. You ain't going nowhere, girl. Elias felt her trembling. He placed a hand gently on her shoulder. I won't let them take you. The bandits dismounted and spread out, searching. Elias whispered, stay low. She obeyed. Despite everything, she obeyed. The first bandit approached the fence where she'd been chained. He crouched and picked up the broken cuffs. Someone freed her, and he can't be far. Elias took a deep breath. He had one shot before they saw him. He raised his revolver. The crack of the shot echoed across the plains. The first bandit fell. The other 3 ducked for cover immediately, returning fire. Elias shielded Liana with his own body as bullets tore through the dry earth around them. They're too many, she whispered. 3 ain't too many, he muttered, reloading. But one of the bandits got close enough to throw a rope over Elias's arm, yanking him off the horse. He hit the ground hard. Liana screamed his name. Elias rolled and fired, hitting the rope handler in the leg. He fell with a scream. The third charged with a knife, but Elias met him halfway. The 2 men clashed, dust rising with every hit. The bandit swung wildly, grazing Elias's shoulder. Elias drove his elbow into the man's jaw, knocking him flat. The 4th bandit, realizing he was alone and outmatched, fled back toward his horse. Elias aimed, but Liana grabbed his arm. Don't, she said softly. Let him carry fear back to his friends. Elias lowered his gun slowly. You're wise, he murmured. She looked at him strangely, as if no man had ever used that word toward her. Elias gathered the horses, then helped Liana down from the ridge. We need to get you to your people. But she shook her head. My village is far. You won't survive if they think you took me. I didn't take you, Elias said. I saved you. But they don't know you, she whispered. My father will not trust a stranger. Elias hesitated. Then what do you want me to do? Her eyes softened. Take me to your ranch first. Let me regain my strength. Then I will decide. Elias knew the danger of bringing an Apache woman to his ranch. Neighbors would talk, men might come looking, trouble never stayed far behind stories like this. But he looked at her wrists, her swollen ankles, her trembling voice. All right, he said. My ranch it is. They rode through the twilight, silence stretching between them. But it wasn't uncomfortable. Just heavy with everything unspoken. After an hour, Liana finally said, Elias, thank you for freeing me. No man has ever looked at me, the way you did. How's that? He asked softly. As if I was human. Not a prize, not a trade. Just a person. He swallowed. That's all you ever were. She leaned gently against him, the first moment of safety she had allowed herself. When they reached the ranch, Elias helped her down carefully. She was exhausted, barely standing. He lifted her into his arms. She tensed for a moment, then relaxed. Inside the cabin, he set her on the bed, lit a lamp, and brought water. She drank slowly, her hands still trembling. You believe me? She asked suddenly. About what? That I was taken, she said, voice cracking. Some men think Apache women lie. They think we pretend. Elias knelt beside her. Liana. I saw your chains. I saw your wounds. I don't need any more proof than that. Her eyes softened again, filled with a warmth he hadn't expected. You're not like others, she whispered. He cleared his throat. Get some rest. I'll keep watch. But when he turned to leave, her hand caught his sleeve. Stay, she said quietly. Not close, just nearby. I don't want to be alone tonight. He nodded and settled in a chair near the doorway. The lamp glowed softly, casting warm shadows around the room. For a long while, Liana simply watched him, her expression calmer, safer. You freed me slowly, she said. Gentle. Careful. No one has ever been gentle with me. You deserve gentleness, he replied. She lay down slowly, pulling the blanket close. Elias. If I had met you before all this, maybe my life would have been different. Maybe, he murmured. But now, maybe my life can still change. He leaned back, watching over her as she finally drifted into sleep. Outside, the wind whispered across the plains once more, carrying dust, silence, and the beginning of a new story that neither of them expected.